I'm back today with another design team project for DiesRUs. This time I used the tropical backdrop die from Lawn Fawn to frame up an ocean sunset on my card. Hello and welcome to Debbie J's Crafting Corner. I'm Debbie, and each week I show you how you can create awesome cards and other crafty projects. Because if I can make it, you can too. So if you'd like to see more tutorials and inspirational videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. The set that I'm using today is the tropical backdrop die set from Lawn Fawn. It's got the nice little frame with the palm trees, and then it's got some additional pieces that you can add on as well. We've got the trunks of the palms, and you can see where those would be layered on. And then we've also got the greenery, or the fronds, up at the top. Then we got this little die that has couple pieces for some grass. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, but I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to cut this out of some black cardstock. Now the panel fits across the entire A2 size card, so I need to make sure it's lined up perfect, and then I've got it taped in place so that it doesn't shift around. And then I just go ahead and pop out the inside, and it's going to just leave us that nice little frame with the palm trees. Now the reason I decided to do this is because I've been making a few ocean sunset cards, and this was my absolute favorite so far. And this one I used a stencil from Holtz and a stamp set rather from Hero Arts. I also cut out a few additional pieces on this. The whole concept that I'm going for is you're looking at the ocean from behind the trees and the sun is coming from the other side. So I decided that just having this dark black trees wasn't quite enough. I needed to have a little bit of color showing through, so it looks like the sun is kind of hitting that side just a touch. So I went ahead and I cut out some of those other pieces, and then I'm coloring them up darker because the cardstock that I'm using just was not dark enough. So I grabbed my darkest Spectrum Noir marker and color that. And these are turning out perfect. I am doing that, my coloring is real quick and easy. I'm not paying attention to really where I'm putting the ink down as long as it covers all of the edges, because most of this is going to be covered by those black trees. Now I'm just adding some art glitter glue to the front of that little tree top that we just colored up. I know that's a little bit counterintuitive because we usually glue that on top, but this time we're actually gluing it behind it, and I'm making it so, positioning it so just a little bit of it kind of shows through. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the trunks, but I decided this brown cardstock also isn't dark enough, so I grabbed one of my darkest brown markers and I am just scribbling right on that. I'm going to do the same thing with the other two trunks, and then I'm going to go ahead and add those to the front with that art glitter glue. Again, I'm going to position it behind those trees. I really like the idea of we're sitting on a beach and it's nighttime or getting close to it, and we are just watching the sunset, and this is just one of my favorite things to do. Whenever my husband and I go on vacation, we always check out the sunsets, and we've got so many videos of the sunsets, it's not even funny. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and add those little trunks and those tree topper fronds to each of those trees. Okay, this is one of the frustrating parts of making this card. I could not find my reverse tweezers. So the ones you see me using here are actually from a new diamond painting kit that I've been working with lately. The tweezers are great, but they are completely opposite of what I'm used to using for making a card. So it worked, and I did find my tweezers later, but it was a little frustrating at this point. You know me, I have to keep on checking to see how everything is looking, and I'm absolutely loving the way that this card is coming together. So I pulled back out that same Hero Arts stamp set, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment down on that black frame before I adhere everything together. So I'm putting down a generous amount of my powder tool, and then I'm stamping one of the stamps from that set. It's just a little sentiment in some VersaFine Onyx black ink. Now the reason I'm using that instead of just clear embossing ink is I'm having some issues with my clear embossing powders and such. Not sure what's going on with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and put some embossing powder down, and oops, I used clear instead of white. So that is not what I was supposed to do. Don't realize it at that point until, of course, I start heating it up, and it does not turn white. It turns clear. It's like, oops, I was using Wow Clear Gloss embossing powder instead of my Recollections Snow embossing powder. So I'm going to start off with just trying to heat that back up and apply some of that embossing powder on top of it, and decided that that just didn't work well enough. It didn't stick where I wanted, and it stuck to places I didn't want. So I'm going to brush all of that off and pretty much start over. I'm not starting completely over, but I am going to try restamping that sentiment. So I'm putting my little panel back in my stamp platform and restamping it in the same spot with that VersaFine Onyx black ink. This is one reason I always leave my stamp in my stamp positioner until I am completely done. Next, I'm putting down again a bunch of that embossing anti-static powder to make sure that it doesn't stick anywhere that it's not supposed to, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that down again. So that looks pretty good, so I'll go ahead and put some of that white embossing powder on there again, tap it off, and that looks pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and heat up that, and we will see how it looks going forward. Now one thing that I thought was kind of odd is as I'm heating this up, it looks like a lot of it was still covered in that that clear embossing ink, so I'm not sure what happened there. I'm going ahead and putting some more of my embossing powder on there, and that looks good. Go ahead and heat that up again with my heat tool. Did you catch that? I spilled embossing powder all over the place. I think that that's happened at least a few different times just in the last week. I need to be a little bit more careful. So I did go ahead and put some more of the white embossing powder on my panel and heated that up, and it turned out wonderful. I absolutely love the way it's looking now. I'm going to go ahead and brush off some of the anti-static powder with a chamois, and now I'm just going to go ahead and put some art glitter glue on the back of this frame and add it to that wonderfully gorgeous sunset. I am so thrilled with how well this one turned out. I haven't made a lot of sunsets in the past. I have done a few, but you know what? Each time I make one, I think it looks more and more realistic, so I'm going to make a ton more. Sooner or later, I will get the colors down. So I'm going ahead and centering that on there, trying to keep as much of the sky and as little of the sea as I can, because I think that just looks absolutely gorgeous. And then I'm trimming off the excess from that panel. I'm using a dot liner adhesive to adhere that to the front of an A2 size white card base, and I'm using a trick. I think I saw it from Kathy Zilski, not 100% sure, but I'm using my scoring tool to line this panel up right there in the corner so it's a perfect fit on the front of the card. Since they're both A2 size panels, it's an absolute perfect fit, and I love that perfect placement there. That finishes this DiesRUs design team project for today. Some of the products that I use can be found at the DiesRUs website, and I've left links to these in the description below. Here are some other videos that I know you'll enjoy. Thanks you so much for dropping by, and remember, if I can make it, you can too. See you next time.